The Louisiana alligator is no longer the king of the swamp. Something much heavier, much longer, and far more patient has claimed the bayou as its private buffet. Beneath the tea-colored waters where the cypress knees break the surface like jagged teeth, a new shadow is unfolding. It doesn't growl, it doesn't splash, and it certainly doesn't give a warning before the water at your feet begins to rise. For decades, the stories were dismissed as tall tales told by weary fishermen after too many hours in the midday sun. But the evidence drifting through the mist suggests a shift in the natural order that no one is prepared to face. The local food chain is being recalibrated in real time, and the new apex predator doesn't follow the rules we've spent centuries learning. The Louisiana Bayou has always been a place of secrets, a labyrinth of slow-moving water and thick vegetation where the line between land and liquid is perpetually blurred. It is a world governed by ancient rules, where the strongest usually survive by tooth and claw. But a new variable has entered the equation, a titan from a different hemisphere that has found the humid, sweltering heat of the south to be a perfect mirror of its ancestral home. The Green Anaconda, the heaviest snake on the planet, is no longer a creature confined to the Amazonian basin. It has found a new frontier in the deep south, and the implications are chilling for anyone who calls these wetlands home. This isn't just an invasive species, it is a phantom that has integrated itself into the very fabric of the marsh. In the dead of night, the bayou is never truly silent. There is a constant mechanical hum of insects and the occasional splash of a nutria or a bullfrog. But locals have begun to notice a new kind of silence, a sudden, oppressive hush that falls over specific patches of the marsh. It is as if the ecosystem itself is holding its breath. When the crickets stop chirping and the birds refuse to nest in certain groves of Spanish moss, it is often because something massive is resting nearby. This isn't the quick strike of a cottonmouth or the visible patrol of an alligator. This is the presence of a weight that can stay submerged for nearly an hour, waiting for a single heartbeat to pass within reach. The silence is the only signal you get, and by then, it's usually too late to turn back. The arrival of such a creature in the American South isn't just a biological fluke. It is a haunting transformation of the landscape. Reports of sightings have transitioned from rare anomalies to a recurring pattern of mystery. Large, unidentifiable coils have been spotted draped over low-hanging branches, blending so perfectly with the emerald algae and gray moss that they are invisible until they move. These aren't just small escapees from the exotic pet trade that failed to survive the winter. These appear to be individuals that have adapted, thrived, and perhaps even begun to establish a silent foothold in a territory that offers them endless places to hide. The bayou provides thousands of miles of interconnected waterways, much of it inaccessible to human vehicles, creating a sanctuary for a creature that thrives on being unseen. The sheer scale of a green anaconda changes the psychology of the swamp. An alligator is a creature of habit, often seen sunning itself on a log or floating with its eyes just above the waterline. You know where a gator stands. But an anaconda is a master of the vertical space. It can be beneath you, beside you, or even above you, draped in the canopy like a living vine. Its strength isn't in its bite, but in its embrace. A pressure so steady and absolute that it doesn't just stop the breath. It stops the rhythm of life itself. Those who have navigated these waters for generations speak of a feeling of being watched, not by a curious animal, but by a presence that exists just out of sight, weighing down the very air of the wetlands. In the Amazon, these snakes are known as the spirits of the water, and they are bringing that ghostly reputation to the marshes of Louisiana. The local environment is a paradise for a creature that thrives on stealth. Where deer once came to drink with a watchful eye for crocodiles, they now face a threat that doesn't need to lung. It simply waits, anchored to a submerged root until the moment of contact. The mystery deepens when we look at the adaptability of these giants. While many assumed the cooler winters of North America would provide a natural barrier, the deep mud and thermal vents of the bayou offer a sanctuary. By burrowing into the soft earth or retreating into the deeper, warmer channels of the river system, a large constrictor can bypass the harshest weather. This resilience suggests that the green ghost of the bayou isn't just passing through. It is settling in, rewriting the biological script of the region, one silent encounter at a time. For the people who live in the stilt houses and remote fishing camps, the threat feels increasingly personal. There are stories whispered over campfires about livestock disappearing without a trace, not even a tuft of fur or a mark left behind. A fence might be intact, the gate might be closed, but the animal is simply gone, as if it had evaporated into the humid air. This is the signature of a predator that consumes its prize whole, leaving no evidence for a forensic trail. It is a clean, quiet disappearance that leaves the mind to fill in the terrifying blanks. The atmosphere has shifted from one of rugged beauty to one of mounting tension. Every ripple in the water near a boat ramp, every rustle in the tall grass behind a backyard, now carries a weight of suspicion. The science behind this potential invasion is still being debated, but the anecdotal evidence is mounting. Some suggest that major storms and hurricanes over the last 2 decades may have inadvertently released these creatures from private collections or damaged research facilities. Once in the wild, the bayou provided everything they needed: heat, water, and an abundance of prey. Without a natural predator to check their growth, an anaconda in Louisiana could theoretically reach sizes that challenge our understanding of reptilian limits. They are the ultimate opportunists, and the bayou is a land of infinite opportunity. The visual of a green anaconda in this setting is the stuff of cinematic nightmares. Morning fog, thick and white like wool, clings to the surface of the water. A lone traveler rows a small skiff, the wood creaking softly. They see a log floating ahead, but as the boat draws closer, the texture reveals itself as something else. It isn't bark, it's a pattern of dark ovals on an olive-green background. And then, the log moves. It doesn't swim away. It simply sinks, leaving only a gentle swirl on the surface. As the sun sets over the marsh, the colors turn to deep purples and bruised oranges, casting long, distorted shadows across the water. This is the hour when the stalker becomes most active. It moves with a fluid grace that contradicts its massive bulk, slipping through the reeds with less noise than a falling leaf. It is a creature of extreme patience, capable of staying perfectly still for days on end, becoming a part of the landscape itself. To walk the banks of the bayou now is to participate in a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek, where only one side knows the rules. The ecological impact of a large invasive constrictor is devastating. Local species from the smallest marsh rabbit to the mid-sized predators like bobcats and foxes have no instinctive fear of a giant snake. They didn't evolve alongside it. To them, a submerged anaconda looks like a safe place to stand, or a harmless piece of driftwood. This lack of evolutionary defense makes the bayou an open buffet for an apex predator that can consume animals many times its own width. Some locals have taken to calling these sightings the green tide. It represents the slow, inevitable creep of a force that cannot be easily stopped. Trapping a creature that can vanish into 1,000 square miles of swamp is nearly impossible. Traditional methods of animal control are rendered useless by the sheer scale and secrecy of the habitat. We are left with a mystery that sits at the intersection of biology and folklore, a modern-day legend playing out in the slow-motion reality of the Louisiana wetlands. The psychological weight of this presence cannot be overstated. It changes the way people interact with nature. The carefree days of swimming in the swimming holes or letting the dogs run near the water's edge are being replaced by a cautious distance. There is a sense of mourning for the loss of safety, a realization that the wild has become a little bit wilder and a lot more dangerous. The stories continue to trickle in from the deep country. A trapper finds a net torn to shreds with a force that no local fish could exert. A surveyor spots a trail through the mud that looks like a small trench, far too wide for any known reptile in the area. These fragments of evidence form a mosaic of a changing world. We are witnessing the birth of a new reality, but unlike the ghost stories of old, this one has a physical weight, a cold-blooded metabolism, and a grip that doesn't let go. In this dark thriller of nature, there is no hero coming to save the day, and there is no simple solution to the invasion. There is only the reality of the swamp, which continues to flow, indifferent to the lives within it. The Green Anaconda is a testament to the power of life to find a way, even in places where it doesn't belong. It reminds us that we are guests in the wilderness, and sometimes the wilderness decides to change the locks. Consider the depth of the marsh, places where the water is stagnant and the canopy is so thick the sun never hits the ground. In these pockets of the South, the environment remains almost prehistoric. It is here that the green ghost finds its greatest advantage. It does not need to hunt in the traditional sense. It simply exists in the path of life. When a creature this large moves, it doesn't just displace water. It displaces the entire energy of the area. Experienced woodsmen describe a feeling of sudden, inexplicable dread, a prickle on the neck that occurs even when the eyes see nothing but reeds and water. It is a primitive recognition of a predator that is built for one thing: the absolute cessation of movement. The bayou has always demanded respect, but now it demands a specific kind of fear, the fear of the unseen and the unrelenting. Every year, the floodwaters rise and recede, reshaping the banks and carving new channels through the mud. This constant state of flux is the perfect cover for an animal that can disappear into the earth as easily as it disappears into the water. If the Green Anaconda has truly established a breeding population in the bayou, the landscape of North American wildlife has changed forever. We are no longer looking at a simple case of an escaped pet. We are looking at the naturalization of a titan. The balance that took thousands of years to reach is being tipped by a heavy green coil. This is a quiet occupation, a territorial takeover that happens 1 acre at a time, one night at a time, while the rest of the world is sleeping. The local alligator populations, once the undisputed rulers, are finding themselves in a strange new position. There have been reports of large gators bearing scars that don't match the bite marks of their own kind. Instead, they carry the marks of a struggle against a force that wraps and holds. In the hierarchy of the swamp, the rules are being rewritten. The alligator is a thunderous predator, known for its powerful snap and the territorial display. But the anaconda offers a different kind of ending, a slow, methodical pressure that leaves no room for escape. It is a clash of two different worlds, and in the murky depths of the delta, the newcomer is proving to be a formidable opponent. This shift in the hierarchy is the ultimate evidence that the bayou is no longer the place we thought we knew. As the fog rolls in off the Gulf and settles over the cypress groves, the line between myth and reality disappears. You might see a shape in the mist, a long, undulating form that seems to defy the physics of the marsh. You might hear the sound of something heavy dragging itself through the tall grass behind a cabin. You might find that the usual sounds of the night, the frogs, the owls, the insects, have all vanished at once. In those moments, you are witnessing the presence of the green ghost. It is a reminder that nature is never static, and that the wild places of the world still hold the power to surprise and terrify us. The Bayou is a territory under new management, and the new master of the swamp is a master of the dark, the deep, and the deadly silent. The mystery of the Louisiana Anaconda is far from over. It is a story that is being written every day in the mud, in the water, and in the whispers of the people who live along the riverbanks. It is a dark thriller where the ending hasn't been decided, and the protagonist is a creature that has survived for millions of years by being the most patient hunter in the world. As the humidity clings to your skin and the shadows stretch across the water, keep your eyes on the surface. The bayou is watching back, and it is no longer just the alligators you have to worry about. The green ghost is home, it is hungry, and it is waiting just beneath the next ripple. The silence of the swamp is no longer a sign of peace. It is the signature of the stalker. The resilience of these creatures in the face of a changing climate and human encroachment is perhaps the most unsettling part of the mystery. They are not just surviving, they are thriving in a world that was never meant for them. This adaptation is a testament to the raw power of the apex predator. As the sun finally disappears below the horizon, leaving only a faint glow on the water, the bayou transforms into a different world entirely. This is the time of the anaconda. It is the time when the heavy coils begin to move and the water begins to rise. The mystery remains, the wait remains, and the green ghost continues its silent vigil over the Louisiana Bayou, a territory it now claims as its own. Beyond the biological impact, there is the cultural ripple effect. Generations of Louisianans have built their lives around the cycles of the swamp, respecting the dangers they could see and hear. But how do you respect a phantom? The lore of the South is being updated in real time, with new cautionary tales being passed down to the younger generation. They are told not to linger near the deep channels, even when the water looks like glass. They are taught to watch the trees as much as the ground. This cultural shift is perhaps the most permanent mark the anaconda will leave. Even if every one of these serpents were removed tomorrow, the memory of the weight in the water would remain. As you stand on a pier in the Louisiana twilight, watching the fireflies begin their dance, remember that the water beneath you is deep and dark. The ripples you see might just be the tide, or they might be the displacement of hundreds of pounds of muscle moving towards the shore. The Bayou Stalker is a phantom made of flesh and bone, a silent witness to the changing world, waiting just beneath the surface for the next movement to come within reach. The mystery remains unsolved, the sightings continue, and the mist of the bayou hides a truth that is as heavy as it is silent. The next time you hear a splash that sounds a bit too heavy, or see a shadow that seems a bit too long, don't wait to see if it's just your imagination. In the new reality of the Louisiana Bayou, the things that go bump in the night have been replaced by the things that slip silently through the water. And the most dangerous thing of all is the silence that follows.